not true. Now will you please let me go to the...
Okay.
Welcome, dragons, androids, and shadowkin, to the 179th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 26th of October, 2016, and featuring Class, For Tonight We May Die, and The Coach with the Dragon Tattoo, both written by Patrick Ness and starring a mess of motherfuckers.
No shit.
I am Bill
Jeez.
Sylvia, the Man in Black, and apparently pumpkin spice candy bars are not chocolate bars. With me are
Dude.
Mad Matt Winchell,
I've had pumpkin spice chocolate bars.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Don't want to think about it.
Yum.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Hello.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Hey there.
So, the BBC kind of threw a curveball at us this week when they decided to make the premiere for Class a doubleheader and gave us episodes 1 and 2 simultaneously. Thus said, we were given the choice of either actually doing both in one night or doing one each week and being a week behind on Class. We've decided on the former, so tonight's going to be a little rushed. So we are going to try to do the news as fast as humanly possible, and then get around and then try to basically do the double head. This is how it's going to work, guys. News, no sci-fi fantasy talk other than Doctor Who tonight. 2.5-minute challenge for Tonight We May Die, followed by likes and dislikes and final thoughts. 2.5-minute challenge for Coach with Dragon Tattoo, followed by likes, dislikes. And then final thoughts and rankings at the very end. Okay?
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. Thus said, and that out of the way, the news. First of all, birthdays. We have Anarchy Wills, who played Polly at the end of the William Hartnell and the beginning of the Patrick Troughton era. Turned 75 on the 20th. Sir Derek Jacobi, who played Professor Yana and his Master version, also had played the Master in the 9th Doctor BBCI Richard E. Grant Doctor version.
Scream of the Shelka.
Scream of the Shelka, thank you. Turned 78 on the 22nd. Happy birthday to both of them, and we're moving on.
All right, Lost Stories. Come on, bring it up. Steve Dillon has passed away. He's known as a regular contributor to Doctor Who magazine in the 1980s, where he created the character of Absalom Dak. Dillon's art was first seen in the 5th edition of the magazine, then called Doctor Who Weekly, in which he co-created the character of Proton with writer Steve Moore. He is also known for working on the critically acclaimed Preacher, as well as Hellblazer and The Punisher. He was born in Luton in 1962 and died in New York. He has apparently died of a ruptured appendix.
Oh.
That's a tragedy. Moving on.
Yeah, I didn't know about the last one. Anyway.
Yep. So the BBC released a video spotlighting the new upcoming Christmas special. Does some footage and footage of Peter Capaldi and Stephen Moffat saying, "This is cool."
That's all it boiled down to?
Well,
It was them talking about superhero movies, essentially, and how this is like one.
Okay, I'll have to watch that after the podcast, but
There's some extra stuff to it, but yeah.
But as it is, I haven't seen it. Really can't comment on it. Next.
All right. The photo gallery and blurb for the next episode of Class has been released. It is night visiting. London is infiltrated by an eerie alien with the ability to morph into the shape of lost loved ones. Tanya has an unexpected visitor come to her window in the dead of night. Based on the images, it seems to be of her father. And she's not the only one, as Ram and Miss Quill face their own startling visitors. Confronted with these emotional encounters, the team must overcome the persuasion of this new threat and battle through the streets to stop Tanya from being lost forever.
I would have to say it is her father, because I do remember the next episode blurb at the end of Dragon Tattoo. She's looking at the guy and goes, "Dad?" So I would say yes, it is.
There also seems to be some tentacles, and Tanya apparently being slimed with ectoplasm. That's about it for that. Brief note, for those that consider Sherlock a Doctor Who spin-off, the next season's premiere, The Six Thatchers, will be on New Year's Day. So rejoice if you are looking forward to that.
Okay. Moving on. There was some other news that we're going to delay until next week, but then we're going to some events. As we have talked about before, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society held an event to honor John Pertwee, the Society's first honorary president. Current honorary president Colin Baker had hosted the event, which features tributes to John by individuals including Peter Capaldi, and it was attended by John's widow, Ingberg, and his daughter, Dariel. So that happened. Previously, we also mentioned the fact that Power of the Daleks was going to be getting a U.S. showing. Apparently, Australia can also claim that now, as BBC Worldwide, ANZ, and Charmail Films has announced a limited run theatrical release for Power of the Daleks. Tickets can be purchased by visiting charmailfilms.com.au for more information. Power of the Daleks will be released in DVD by the usual company on the 14th of December. And now we have some video news.
Koch Media are re-release the spin-off features produced by Real Time Pictures' Mind Game and Mind Game Trilogy on DVD, 14th of November here. Mind Game Saga, as it is known. In the original Mind Game movie, the classic prison cell drama, three warriors are forced to fight by an evil alien intent on testing the combat skills of creatures from our dimension. Can they trick him and escape back to their own timelines? And Mind Game Trilogy, continuing the individual stories of the three warriors, Battlefield Field Major Sarg is in trouble, trapped, wounded, and alone in a battle-scarred planet. He's forced to accept he may die, but at least it will be a glorious death, or so he hopes. Prisoner 451, to be or not to be, that is the question. On trial for subversion, Commander of Brigade Merc faces the ultimate penalty. Scout ship, a dying ship drifting in space, the human mercenary pilot with certain death, or a human mercenary pilot faced with certain death. Time may be relative, but it still runs out. DVD also includes second disc special features, including Mind Game Saga Retrospective, Making a Mind Game Trilogy, Mind Game, and Mind Game Trilogy slideshows, and Mind Game script with missing scenes.
All right, and that takes us to our Big Finish news.
It's worth noting that the human warrior has references which essentially makes her almost ace, but legally not.
Mm-hmm.
Just say.
Is it one of those where they call her like McShane or something? Or
I don't know
Dorothy?
if they call her anything, but she makes references to what things the professor used to do.
Are these the same movies that were taken off the shelves because they were dangerously close to copyright infringement, or?
I'm not sure if they ever were, but these were
the Real-Time Pictures ones. I don't think they got busted. Bill Baggs got busted.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so out now, first in celebration of the Torchwood 10th anniversary, is the Torchwood Archive. We previously announced that this was planning to come, and I believe it features some stories from early in Torchwood set before Season 1. Also out now is Jago and Lightfoot Series 12. Jago and Lightfoot is one of the more popular Big Finish spin-offs of Doctor Who, featuring the well-known characters from Talons of Wang Chiang. This is not the one with the Master. That was
last
there are
one.
so many of these releases, it's hard to keep up. But
Yeah,
The Master ones were the last
by
ones.
Kristen
They're
Richards,
pumping out,
Paul
like-
Morris, and Simon Barnard.
They're pumping out 2 to 3 of these seasons a year, I think.
Seems so. Details on Charlotte Pollard Series 2 are out. Charlotte Pollard being the newest of the Doctor Who spin-offs from the former 8th and 6th Doctor, in that order, companion. Trying to quickly see what the new details are, but I'm not seeing it in a quick glance. But it is a 5-disc set, the last disc being interviews, the first 4 discs being stories. This is after she has spent some time with the Virans and I believe is traveling with one now. All right. In terms of upcoming news, right order. Okay, yeah, that's right. That was upcoming news. Speaking of Jago and Lightfoot, Series 13 has been announced because they just can't hold off on pumping these out. It's planning to come out in April of next year, featuring The Stuff of Nightmares by Paul Morris, Chapel of Night by Jonathan Barnes, How the Other Half Lives by Matthew Sweet, and Too Much Reality by Justin Richards. Doesn't seem to...
2 a year. They seem to be pumping them out like every other quarter.
Something like
much.
that.
Hmm.
Right. We've also gotten some covers for upcoming releases in the main range. It's Quicksilver featuring Colin Baker, Flip, and I forget the name of the newest companion, the Wren, that we covered the first appearance of. Anyone remember her name?
No.
But she's played by Miranda Rayson, by Miranda Rayson. There's
Yeah.
also a trilogy by the 5th Doctor, the Starmen, the Contingency Club, and Zoltis, all with the Castrovalva crew. And they are some pretty good-looking covers. I would say the weakest is Quicksilver, and that's just because it's kind of held back by the red and gray theme that they're going for, but that's really the only flaw in it, too. So I'd say they're all together pretty successful.
It's nice to have nice art.
And that's it for our news, which we've gotten through in 12 minutes.
Jeez. How long does it normally take us? About 40 minutes?
Yeah.
No, it usually takes us at least an hour.
Takes you at least an hour because certain people keep bantering in circles.
So we'll try to keep it to about 30 minutes going forward, especially considering we'll be having covering new releases.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So we do actually have a slight bit of time. 5 to 10 minutes tops. Is there anything anyone needs to talk about really quickly? I've already covered all my season premieres. There haven't been any new ones, so I've got no news there.
I'm about halfway into Evil Dead.
Liking it thus far?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I like that. I liked it last year.
I need to finish it off tomorrow morning so I can do a review of the franchise up till the end of season 1 for tomorrow.
Well, if you want someone to talk with you on it, poke me.
Well, it's technically a review of the whole franchise as a whole. And that's usually just me doing it solo for the franchise, which is what I've done for the last 3.
I was going to say, I've seen every single freaking Evil Dead thing. I've even played at least one of the video games.
Including Ash versus Freddy versus Evil, or versus Ash?
I've read, I think I read the first one in it.
I've read that entire comic run.
I read it when it was
I've also seen Ash versus Marvel Zombies.
I read it when it was a screenplay. I don't think I've actually seen much of the comic once that got greenlit.
I got the first one in the comic book line, but then I didn't have any money to continue it, unfortunately.
I've been doing some stuff. We've been doing our playthrough of the Secret World with Matt doing his own edit of it, of a live stream. I think you've also been live streaming, Matt, right?
I've been
You
live
just
streaming
edit
it
down
and
the
then chopping
footage.
it up.
Mm-hmm. And then I've also just recently started playing around with hosting on Twitch, which means whenever my channel is not live, another channel that is live, such as Unearthly Podcast right now, will also be playing on there, depending on the priority on the list I have it on. So I think that's pretty cool.
Matt and I have also been playing Hide and Shriek, which is a new game by Funcom. We live streamed a little of it earlier today.
Well, we tried to live stream it. The OBS
that's right.
does
We
not
didn't live
like
stream
it.
it. Yeah,
OBS, at least on my end, does not like it. I recorded it, and the recording actually came out pretty well. So
yeah, OBS and Unreal 4 do not like each other. I did a little reading on that, and that's just a simple fact. I don't know why, but it's true. But
So that's
anyway,
an
it's a fun little game.
Mm-hmm. And here you are thinking you weren't going to like it.
Well, I mean, it's not something I'm going to spend a lot of my time on. I mean, it's not obsessive on me, but it's a good little distraction.
I might jump on it tomorrow. Instead of us doing a Secret World live stream, we could do a live stream of Hide and Shriek.
Doing back and forth between the three of us.
Because, yeah, it's only 1v1, so.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's about enough time.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to make this the 2.5-minute challenge. Since we've been making our 5-minute margins pretty well recently, and these are only 1-hour episodes, we're going to deduct the time to 2.5 minutes. Who wants to be the first challenger?
I'll give it a try. I usually get in that amount of time when with my notes, so let's see if I can make it in 2.5.
Remember, this is only the first one.
Yeah.
For tonight, we may die.
All right, just give me a countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
The student cast spends some time establishing themselves, during which they're all trying to get dates to the prom, discussing a missing student who died fighting a Shadowkin among Miss Quinn, and get mocked by Miss Quill, and get mocked by said Miss Quill. April and Tanya are independently attacked by Shadowkin. Tanya fends hers off with a lamp, and Miss Quill comes to April's rescue and tries to convince her to shoot the Shadowkin, which would normally kill both April and the target. Charlie arrives and tries to stop April, causing the shot to partially miss. The Shadowkin, who happens to be Korakinus the King, has now lost his heart and shares April's. Charlie refuses to kill him, as doing so would kill April. He then explains that he and Miss Quill are aliens, the last of their kind, due to a genocide by the Shadowkin. Miss Quill was a resistance fighter sentenced to be Charlie's bodyguard and servant by a biological implant. The two are then saved by the doctor, who brought them to Shoreditch. The prom arrives, and Ram's Day is the first to be killed by a Shadowkin before an army of them advance on the prom. Charlie then begins to fire at the Shadowkin without killing himself, which may be because he's a rubbish shot. All seems lost as the doctor arrives and points out that the Shadowkin are acting outside of their normal modus operandi, to which Korakinus states he's here for the Cabinet of Souls, a religious artifact and potential weapon which Charlie claims is empty. Korakinus refuses to leave, leading April to threaten to kill herself and him in the process. Tanya turns on the lights, and with the doctor's help, it drives the Shadowkin. Korakinus attempts to take April with him as he flees, but Ram, powered by rage, chases after him on one leg and knocks April free before passing out. The doctor warns them that their location is at risk of future incursions and gives Ram a prosthetic leg. As the episode ends, Charlie looks into the not empty Cabinet of Souls.
All right. You did that in 1 minute, 57 seconds, .51. So just shy of 58 seconds. So then.
Assuming Ram
All right.
is rolling a die right now.
Nope, I've already done my die roll. I've already done it, arranged it. So, what we liked about the episode overall, Tim? You were up first.
Overall, I really liked the dynamic of the relationship between Miss Quill and Prince. I thought it was a neat twist on the the bodyguard, like, sort of life debt type thing.
Wait, was Prince in this episode?
Yes.
That's the wrong one.
Forgot to get
The
Purple
Alien
Rain
Prince.
as the theme song for the last episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue, Tim.
It was fascinating, it was like, what do you do? How do you treat someone who you despise but you're bound to protect?
Sounds like that's something the Doctor deals with every week, I think.
True. The Doctor's had to protect some real ingrates.
Now and again.
Voyage of the Damned comes to mind. Was there anything else, Tim?
No, I just like the character.
All right,
She's cool.
Bill.
I liked the visuals of this episode. I think this one was particularly good, especially the look of Korakainis, but some of the other props as well. Clearly, they put a good amount of effort into starting off good with production values.
All right, Matt.
Oh, overall thing I liked. Bill kind of covered it a little bit. You mentioned mostly the props. I liked that the digital effects were very minimal, and when they were used, is mostly to enhance things that were actually already on screen, as far as I can tell. Like little extra effects, like for the whole crack thing and people coming in and out of the crack, and
Although I imagine all the
heat ripples
cloud,
for
like
the
smoke
people and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I imagine the smoky bits were all CGI.
Well, it's also attempting to just be shadows, which, as long as everything else is there, the shadow effect should come up pretty well as long as you're competent at it.
Anything else, Matt?
I liked some of their effects. They put in the right amount of real things as well as digital things to make the digital not look quite so off.
All right, Aaron.
I liked how the characters kind of started out as being kind of one-dimensional, but them being portrayed like this also kind of allows the story to move forward a little bit faster. So we got a lot of the introductions out of the way pretty quickly. Everyone's kind of established, or at least we think they're established, and then they're built upon later on in the story. So I really liked how that was handled. I wasn't really confused. Everything was pretty clear cut. Yeah, I kind of liked how the characters were handled, I should say.
All right. So I liked the character of Tanya because she's the one of the group that really stood out to me.
Yeah, she's my favorite too.
I think she got the most characterization in the first episode.
I would argue that.
Or
April
actually both, actually.
April, I thought, got the most characterization.
I thought she was pretty flat still, a little bit.
Yeah, but she had the most screen time and most.
April got a fair amount. I just don't think there's all that much to her character.
I
get
don't
that
think-
much characterization.
I agree with you there. I like Tanya a lot better.
April's the younger one, right?
No,
April's
Tanya's
the white one.
Yeah, April's the Caucasian one. Tanya's the young black girl.
Oh.
Yeah, the one with the Nigerian parents. Do you realize how strict they are? Or strict her mother is, anyway.
Yeah, the Nigerian joke that permeates every part of Britain. Yeah.
Charlie is the alien, and Ram is the Middle Eastern / Indian. I can't really tell.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Indian because this is in England and it's going to be India or Pakistan. As the majority of population from that part of the earth that lives in England. Not the sole part, but that's the larger part.
That and his father is apparently a Sikh because he's wearing a turban.
Oh yeah, he's Indian. His last
Although Ram does not seem to be a Sikh. Because
His
he
last
doesn't
name is
act
Singh.
like one.
Yeah,
Ah,
his
I
last
did
name
not
is
know his
Singh.
last-
That says Indian to me.
right.
Hmm.
Whereas April is MacLean, so probably Scottish origin. Charlie has Smith, but that's just an alias.
Yeah.
And Tanya is Adiola, apparently. But no, of that, Tanya is the character that most endeared herself to me. It helped that she was a Sailor Moon fan.
Yeah, I saw that.
I saw those references too, but
I actually had to pause it and look on my
Ri-
screen and go,
Remind me of the Sailor Moon reference.
it's
I-
a poster above her
Posters.
bed.
there's
Oh,
multiple
okay.
posters above her bed, all of them Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Yep, and they all changed. They all changed. Like the first time or one of the earlier times we see it, it's Super Sailor Moon and Super Chibi Moon, I believe.
Mhm.
And then I think it's the second time we see it, it's with just like a few of the other more generic Sailor Moon posters from.
But that kind of that little attention to detail really helped the character stand out because yeah, she's a 14-year-old going to 3 years above her class, which by the way, probably a mistake by the BBC because if we're supposed to be dealing with 17-year-olds, that basically means we've got like this thing only has about a 2-season max run before they're
Right.
out of class.
Unless
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a rotating.
It's like Buffy starting at season 4.
Yeah.
3. I mean, it's season 3. Yeah.
Unless they're expecting to do a rotating lineup.
I don't know, maybe.
Just
We'll
don't
have to
give us
see.
Power Rangers Turbo. That's all I ask.
So anyway, yeah, I really like Tanya's character. All right, things you don't like, and that's again starting with Tim.
There wasn't much I didn't dislike. I'll have to pass.
Okay.
I'm
Bill,
going
you're
to
next.
say for mine, a lot of the writing felt telegraphed when it came to the characters. It felt like they were trying to feed us bullet points, like Tanya being a black nerd and Charlie being gay, rather than just telling the story organically.
I don't really think they did a great job of Charlie being gay. More like Charlie being clueless on sexuality in general.
Mhm.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, I did have some issues, but I'll get to that in mine. Matt, you're up next.
So yeah, I have to agree with the character writing being pretty horrendous, especially during the first half of the episode. And I'm sorry, but Randy, you said you liked Tanya. The first half of the episode, I actually really did not like her.
Really? Any
Why?
particular thing about her?
I don't know, but some of her dialogue just kind of made me twitch during the beginning of the episode. But by about halfway through, she started warming up to me. So
I will say a
after
lot
the
of her
first half-
dialogue.
After the
Sorry,
first
I'll
half,
let you-
after the really ham-fisted dialogue, then she started to become more of a human being to me. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I started to see a little bit of the character. But when she first started,
The thing
a lot
is-
of her dialogue felt bullet pointed to me, like it was only
Yeah.
there to prove a point about the character and not something she would actually say.
mhm.
Yes, but I would
but
say
that was my
all the
only issue with
characters.
Yeah, that's the problem with all the characters, but she seemed pretty blunt with that at first. Then
All right.
they all started to get much better, and she also got much better after the halfway point. But that first, ooh,
Aaron?
I'm gonna say that I wasn't really that convinced of. I didn't think that the prince and Miss Quill really kind of came off as aliens for me. I mean, he was a little bit more clueless on sexuality and some basic stuff, but I kind of would have liked to see the prince more written as being more aggressive, and possibly Miss Quill having to be kind of the same aggression, and then they have to try to get along together that way. The prince just came off as way too passive in here.
Well,
So
that was actually part of the writing into his character.
Mhm.
Is to why Quill is angry.
Mhm.
Is she's the angry having the rage, and while Charlie, I will call him his name, Charlie, is the same way. He has that I'm royalty and has to rise above it.
Yeah.
Mentality, which is kind of British royal family in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Kinda.
and that's kind of what I got out of it, but it also made him incredibly boring. Like, I really didn't.
So is the royal
care about
family
what
tied
happened
to
to him.
tied to female Winston Churchill?
No. I'm not even going to go with that one, Bill.
I think my biggest thing is that there just didn't seem to be any kind of chemistry between the two of them. They didn't seem to hate each other enough, and they didn't seem to, they just didn't seem to have that kind of mistrust of each other that characters in that situation might have. So I guess that's why it didn't really work for me. I love Miss Quill, but
Oh yeah, she has that great sarcastic, angry. She
yeah.
would have made a great Zygon. Bill had mentioned that a couple weeks ago and pretty much hit that nail on the head. She would have been great as a Zygon. I almost half expected it to her before they actually did the reveal.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she had that feeling around her, but like somehow Charlie being an alien and basically the doctor had basically moved him to Earth and taken this Zygon and said, you will keep him alive, kind of thing. But no, they didn't do that. So my issue overall is the fact that the characters were pretty much forgettable throughout this episode. By the end of this episode, the only character whose name I actually remembered were April and Ram, and that's because they were repeated enough.
I remember Tanya's name.
I didn't until the end of the second episode.
Like, I saw her name on the Skype channel when she called Ram.
I didn't notice that.
In fact, I noticed the spelling of it and was able to go back and correct all my notes.
I had heard her name, I think, once, maybe twice in the first episode, and I forgot it by the beginning of the second episode, which is how in and out of my head it was.
April, I found the names at least distinct enough that when I saw them in the photo gallery last week, so that you could actually put a face to the name, I was actually able to remember them from that point on, which I normally have difficulty with, but I think that's because it's a much more diverse cast than I'm used to from the BBC.
But it didn't stick in my head. It took me 2 episodes.
I'm slightly dyslexic, and I have a horrible memory for names, and I can remember Rom more than I can remember anyone else's name.
Well,
other than Miss Quill.
I could remember Rom, and I could remember April because they kept mentioning that with her heart, April's heart. So that's why April got stuck in my head, and Rom was easy. 1-syllable name to remember, but I didn't remember Charlie's name, and I didn't remember Tanya's name, and I remembered Miss Quill, but it's Miss Quill. So it took the second run through before I could remember Tanya's name, and I had to look up Charlie here at the beginning of this because I couldn't remember his name either. Everyone refers to him as the Prince, so I'm assuming you can't remember his name either until I've said it 6 times now.
So now it's Prince Chuck.
That works. All right, so scene that you liked. Tim, you're up.
I love the scene where the headmaster walks in and Quill just turns around. Don't come in. We are decorating. Or leave.
Ah, jeez, you took mine, Tim. Leave us. We are decorating.
We are decorating.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, it's like not a reasonable request at all. Not a reasonable reason to make that request, but you don't argue with that tone of voice.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, you're next.
All right. I felt my favorite scene was the very ending when Charlie looks into the cabinet. It sets up how deep the conflict between him and Quill is going to become. and it gives us just a sense of scope for the series to come.
All right, Matt.
Picking up the dates. The prince picking up his date for the prom. Is there something going
Hi,
on
guys.
in there? Nah, it's
Ah.
every day is a fine day when your son picks up his boyfriend to go to the prom. Huh?
Yeah, he does not get sarcasm at all.
No.
Yeah.
And if you said that went over his head, I'm pretty sure he would say he could catch it.
And he was listed in the thing, and he's not actually considered one of the main cast.
I was kind of curious about that. I think in the second episode it mentions him as like being grounded or something, but I'm like, I've like his role in the first episode makes him seem like he's going to be main cast, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
He's listed in the recurring. I think isn't he Matthews,
Mateus, I believe.
Mateas, Andrzejewski? Yeah, he's top billed in the recurring cast.
Okay.
So he might not die, at least not yet.
Yeah, which might. Well, I was going to say, which might mean he might not make it till the end of the.
To the end of the series, possibly not.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who are you guys talking about?
Mateus.
Charlie's boyfriend.
Oh,
Yeah. Something. Really have that big a part to play in this episode beyond.
Beyond being the boyfriend.
Like it seems like
Okay.
everyone else had an active role in the story.
And he was just kind of passively there. All right, so who was I up to for?
You did me.
So Aaron.
Aaron? Yeah.
all right.
Favorite
I
scene?
actually kind of like the scenes on the alien planet. The only way that April can imagine these people is walking around in school uniforms, like super official school uniforms. It's a planet full of alien school people, just like Harry Potter.
Then she asked the question:
In fact, I think a lot.
Do you look different than humans, or are you just hiding it? And moment of them in full makeup. No, we don't hide it.
And you don't know if they're lying or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just. I'm sorry, with Edgerton putting on their Harry Potter festival, I'm not that big of a fan of Harry Potter, but that's kind of what I thought of when I saw that scene.
No, it immediately hit me as British school uniforms because that's pretty much those were pretty much the old Coal uniforms pre this, where Coal has gotten reclassified by the British government. Something they only kind of maybe touched on, but didn't actually outright say.
Deadpool's a
In here.
Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I think the doctor said something about before it became all fancy about it.
Yeah, basically there's been a change in how the British government do certain things now, and Coal Hill apparently has gotten itself reclassified. And that gave it money to have this big remodel job. And why students are allowed to go to school now plain clothes.
Ah.
Sweet. Oh yeah, I guess I just never realized that. I figured that like it was just something that they did in the 80s and 90s. I've seen in all the old PBS dramas and stuff with the school uniforms. It didn't even strike me that no one was wearing a school uniform in this.
I was kind of wondering
No.
about that a little bit, but yeah, that makes sense if they've reorganized.
Yeah,
things since.
they've become they've oddly enough, in statements that British schools work different from ours, Coal Hill has become an academy now.
Okay. Does that
And-
mean they're like private academy or are they public school? Is there such a thing as public school?
It's kind of weird.
It's actually kind of
Okay.
funny because in American schools, you think academy, you think something that's more likely to have uniform than something ending in school.
That's what
Exactly.
That's
Right.
what I was going to say, is the fact that it's almost the reverse here. Is the academy has a lot looser rules than your standard public school
Okay.
in England. It can more govern itself, but has to conform to certain standards brought forth. Kind of the way our schools work, in the way that they have to meet the academic standards,
Right.
but
Mhm.
they're able to set their own curriculum and set their own scheduling. other than you have to be off certain holidays. For instance, if the Madison Metropolitan School District decided to adopt a trimester school year, they're allowed to, as long as they still meet academic standards. A standard school in Britain can't do that because its curriculum and schedule is set forth by the Ministry of Education. An academy, on the other hand, has the right to set its own scheduling and curriculum as long as they meet the academic standards. So it's the exact opposite here, a lot looser than that. And the rules on how to become an academy changed, I think, in 2012. And as a result, a lot of schools have been reclassifying themselves as academies to keep getting budget money and not have to conform to all the strict rules that are put forth by the Ministry of Education. So this has been your moment of education, or this moment of education on how British schooling works. And I may have gotten it completely ass wrong, but
the more you know.
Anyone English in the audience that wants to comment on what we did or did not get right, feel free.
All this is based on what research I did prior to.
What is that sound?
That's a train.
Train!
It's like an echoing train going through the time vortex.
I'm not sure whose house that's going past. Possibly ours.
Time
yeah,
train.
it's ours. It's
Okay.
back behind the apartments.
I may be hearing it through two different mics. Might be why it's distorted.
No, my door is closed, so it's not actually going.
Oh, you can still hear it though.
You can still hear it a little bit.
Anyway, I may have gotten it wrong, but this is based on, I think, a few hours of research I did when I first saw that it was called Coal Hill Academy in one of the notes and tried to figure out what the difference was. That's what I was able to read up on.
Okey-doke.
Anyway, so it was up to scenes that I like, and I think I have to go with Capaldi's exit lines at the end, dealing with them trying to deal with it. One of which, of course, is the whole thing where they're trying to figure out, the what to refer to their version of the rift as, and that was the one that was in all the trailers and stuff. But the scene still comes off well, especially Capaldi's reaction to it of trying to ignore it and almost succeeding. Okay, so scenes that you don't like, Tim.
I didn't really like the one where Tanya's mom comes in and says, "What are you doing? You're talking to a boy." Yes, I get her characterization, but it was kind of heavy in that moment.
Well,
I just felt it was mainly a punchline. Like it was, all of that going on, and the thing that gets focused on is that Ram is on the Skype.
Yeah, she is supposed to be the overbearing mother type, the as we've stated, stereotypical Nigerian mother.
The jokes I've heard ranging all the way to they won't even acknowledge Santa Claus exists because there's no way a fat white guy is going to take all of her credit.
If this had been an American show, the stereotype that would have been used here would have been an Asian teenage girl.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Tiger
That may
Mom.
have been how she started.
I don't know. I don't know
Britain...
I don't know if the stereotype of the Tiger Mom exists in Britain like it does here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's
the Nigerians tend to have that stereotype more than the Asians over in Britain.
So that's kind of that it's the kind of the same stereotype, just applied to a different people in a different
it's
part
really
of the world.
weird because I've only ever heard of it referred to. Well, I've heard of it referred to Indian, like mothers from India and again Asian or semi-Asian. Yeah, but I've never heard of it referred to Nigerians.
Oh, I know there's at least one popular Nigerian comedian I know from Britain, and that's her shtick with her mother too.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, it could just be that I just
you just
haven't heard
haven't
of
witnessed
it.
it up until this point, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that it's basically filling that same stereotype role of the overachieving, educate, educate 4.0 grade average,
Yeah.
go to the expensive college, become a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of similar to the parent as a coach type deal. Why don't you do better?
Mhm.
Do more. Do better.
The real life
So
equivalent of Chi-Chi.
So yeah, exactly. And so yeah, the fact that she gets all in arms about her girl who is too young to be dating and should be focusing on her academics, talking to a boy. No, I get that. All right, Bill, scenes you didn't like.
All right, so. All right, yes. My least favorite scene, I'm going to say, was Rebecca's death scene. That was Ram's date. It just felt like it was the only death that the Shadowkin did like it in on Earth in that episode, and that makes it extremely obvious that her entire purpose was to be fridged. If it was more like the rest of the episode, then that would be fine. But the fact that she gets this gory death scene out of the shadows and nobody else gets that kind of treatment just makes it feel very staged, which goes along with what I was saying about the writing before. It's just different from the dialogue.
If they had done it differently, if they were walking to the door and that whole Armada force came out with him at the lead, and she looked, she screamed, and she got cut down there, would that have been better?
I think that would have been better, yeah.
Mhm.
Or even if the Shadowkin had all emerged that way and just she was the only one, caught off guard, even that would have made more sense.
Well, no, they would have had to do it the way I did for Capaldi's line of "This isn't your normal MO."
Right.
And so, but the fact that yes, the leader had to come out the stealth way.
That line would have changed if they had done everybody that way. But the fact that they used their normal MO to kill her and then a different MO for everything else it makes it feel really staged.
And the fact that they're coming out looking more like a platoon of Jadoon, but
right.
Not very stealthy for stealthy warrior types.
Yep. So Matt, your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene. Trying to think of anything that was actually really particularly bad. I guess the one I will at least nitpick on. It wasn't a horrible scene, but the one with the big cloud chasing. What's her name again?
Tanya.
Tanya, yeah, the big shadowy cloud chasing Tanya, and it's just like this massive shadow on a wall that people could have seen from almost a block away. How large it is, and no one else saw it, and she somehow ran it into a grocery store. What? That just that it beggars belief a bit.
It's even worse when you think about it. They're here for Charlie and the box. So why were they chasing Tanya in the first place?
Why were they chasing her? Why were they chasing any of the
she's
other
black
humans?
And she's like a shadow.
Why were they chasing any other humans but Charlie and them? It makes that part of the writing makes no sense.
Or if you're going to do it, have it so that they are specifically targeting the classmates of Charlie, specifically, and not just random people.
Right.
Because there was a couple of other random people. Yeah.
Had Tanya talked to Charlie in like a previous scene?
April did, but I don't know.
So April did, but I don't remember Tanya doing it outside of class. Like in the actual classroom, I think they were all talking to each other, but
very briefly.
Not one-on-one.
But not really what you'd consider a close thing. So I could see April being followed if she had spent some time, talking on a friend level with Charlie. But Tanya seemed to be very odd out.
I could see it if Tanya was like staying late in the library or something, or like
And
you know,
Charlie
like
had
she
to
was
be-
doing
happened
she
to
was
be
doing
there or
extra
something
work
for a
in a
bit.
classroom. No, not
Mhm.
even that. But like if they specifically were targeting people in the school, like April was in the school building. If Tanya was also in the school building when she was targeting, and that's what they were doing.
Mhm.
They were like, okay, we know Charlie's in this building. We're just going to keep
Mhm.
attacking people until
But
we
yeah,
get
instead
him.
when they
That would
attached
be
to
one
her,
thing.
she was like blocks away from the school by the feel of it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the problem.
That makes it even
I'm
more
like,
ridiculous.
and the other ridiculous thing is that the other time we see the shadows is they're dodging into the shadows of the soccer players, of the football players,
At least that's
which
somewhere
are
near the
also
school.
yeah,
But
exactly, which is also near the school. So it makes her scene stand out even more.
Right.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that did not make sense that I think they added as filler.
Yeah.
we need to kill another like 10 minutes of screen time. Here, have her run away from a shadow cloud as big as a building, and she
Okay.
somehow runs up for most of the scene.
All right, Aaron.
My least liked scene would have to be April and her obsession with the prom. Like, we'll have to cancel prom. And it's just like, oh god,
Well, I mean-
there's worse things going on here.
I mean, apparently she's the entire prom committee, so that makes sense to me.
It's
That is
no,
also a little bit strange too, because prom is one of those things where there's always a small clique of people who are determined to throw it on.
yeah,
So
but you get the feeling that prom is more an American thing that they're trying
Oh, yeah.
because there's that line later. Is this what proms are like in America?
Right.
So I get the
Yeah.
feeling
I thought that was out of place because I couldn't remember any American characters. So, like, I feel like, why? Who are you asking that question to?
well,
And is it someone important?
I think it was more of a general comment
Mhm.
Mhm.
than a directed one, and also it was kind of the thing that kind of clued me in that this was kind of an on trial. Somebody had heard about this social dance prom thing that's
Mhm.
done in America, and somebody, probably April, got it in their mind that they should do it here and got it approved. But
Yeah,
nobody
and-
Like
else
American
cared much.
proms, they should dump a bucket of pig's blood on somebody.
Well, and it's probably it probably also makes it a lot more attractive for BBC American audiences for when class eventually gets to America.
I
It'll
wouldn't
have
know
something.
because BBC America is too focused on Dirk Gently to notice that class is airing.
They're showing Dirk Gently.
Yes.
Yeah, they started
Yes.
it the week of the class premiere.
Damn it! I already missed an episode. I'll have to grab that and start DVRing the rest.
The video we were talking about before, and I feel like we have enough time to talk about that. It ended with they were like, if you can't wait until Doctor Who, there's a new show coming, and then it was a trailer for Dirk Gently, and I'm sitting there like, yes, rub the salt in the wound that Doctor Who fans don't get to watch class.
I'm still gonna have to
Look at
tape.
that.
I'm still gonna have to tape Dirk Gently. Screw that.
Twist the knife a little bit more. Isn't Daniel Radcliffe in Dirk Gently?
I don't know.
I don't
I've gotten
know.
like no information on it, and I didn't even know it was airing. Because freaking Bill told me that they were airing. What was it?
I was saying that specific night there was 3 airings of Men in Black.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and see because we don't get BBC America on our on demand. So I'm gonna have to see if I can get a hold of that copy by other means.
Elijah Wood plays Dirk Gently.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. Elijah Wood plays the sidekick Todd. Never mind. Samuel Barnett is the Dirk Gently.
Either way, I'm gonna have to look for that. But no, another part of the idea is the fact that knowing that the shadow things are hunting them, they all decide to go to the prom anyway. This hit me as an ultimate stupid moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically a, hey, Rocky, wouldn't you think if we all went to the prom, it might wind up with people dying? Oh, don't worry about that, Bullwinkle.
To be fair, they at least discussed it. They were basically like, well, if you don't go to prom, everyone's just going to die at home.
Yes, but they didn't actually come up with the concept of if they were all at the prom and these things attacked, that they would be endangering the lives of every freaking person at the school. Which was kind of an obvious one to me.
I think it was also because they just the only people who knew what the Shadowkin were like assumed that they were going to pull their usual MO and just kill everybody at once, which they didn't do, and the Doctor pointed that out.
So
I still don't know why their usual
that's
MO
still
wouldn't
not
work.
better.
Yeah.
That's still let's kill everybody at school. It's just people are still going to die. It's just going to take more of the shadow people. It was just bad concept thought. But for my least favorite scene, I have to put in the breakdown that April has on the stage when she's trying to get people to evacuate, and eventually she comes up there and interrupts, and then proceeds to have a meltdown on stage rather than doing something sensible like saying, "I'm sorry, everyone, there's a fire in the building. Please exit in an orderly fashion."
I didn't understand why April didn't just pull the fire alarm.
That too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming fire alarms work the same
Yeah.
in England as they do in the US.
I would think so, yes.
You pull the fire alarm and it accidentally calls the doctor. Or not accidentally. Purposefully calls the doctor.
The Coal Hill fire alarm system, that might actually work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just there's a ton more rational things to do, and instead she has this meltdown, and I'm just like, okay, well, you just blew your chance to save everybody. You fail.
And yet everyone else gets out alive.
Yep. So do we want to do final thoughts now or at the end for this episode?
I could go either way.
Why don't we conclude with final thoughts, but we'll save the vote till the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Or till the end of the podcast.
Are we voting twice then?
Yes,
At
we
the
are
end,
voting
yes.
twice, one for each episode.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and give our final thoughts for this episode. Tim.
My final thought was this was a good premiere episode. Some intriguing characters. A bit awkward at times, but otherwise it was pretty good.
All right, Bill.
Well, pilots are not known for their great writing, and this is a perfect example of why. There were some pretty obvious things, and then there were some other things that were just very head-scratching. Outside of the writing, I think they did a very good job, and I think at the very least, the character traits got through to us, even if it was done kind of ham-fistedly. So I'd say a mixed bag.
All right, Matt.
I agree that the writing of the first half of the story in particular is a bit hodgepodge, but it does gradually sort itself out and does reach a point and also makes for a decent setup for what the rest of the series is obviously going to be about.
All right, Aaron.
I think it's a good but simple introduction to a lot of these characters. There are some kind of strange stuff going on with the plot. But I found like there was more than one character that I greatly enjoyed, actually, being Tanya and Miss Quill. And also the Doctor's presence was kind of welcome, too, to give this a nice little push.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed it pretty well. Special effects were good, setting was good, and kind of creepy as an old school. So that's it for me.
All right. Well, the thing is, like Bill said, pilots need to have a lot of work put into them. They need to establish each and every character that's going to be in there. And when you have an ensemble cast, that's a bit of a pain in the ass. It needs to establish them. It needs to establish their personality, and it needs to establish the plot and concept of the series. This one did fail a little bit in that the characters didn't get developed as well as they should have. It seemed to stumble around at first before finally finding its footing, I would say shortly before the prom, and moving on from there. It started weak and ended decently. I think it probably falls into more of a mediocre range than anything else. And like I said, we will rate the episode at the end of the podcast. We are now moving on to the second episode, The Coach with the Dragon Tattoo. Who would like to do the summary? Anyone?
I guess I can do it.
You want to do it, Matt?
Sure.
Okay, let me pop out the stopwatch here. Just a moment. Please tell me it. Nope. I have not actually put that link in here. Okay. Now it's in there. Okay, so I now have the stopwatch app up. I am ready when you are.
Okay.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, go.
We start off more or less about a week later. The kids have kind of settled down again, but they are still trying to keep their connections. While at the same time, a lot of them have become, especially Rom, has become very disconnected with the rest of the group, having lost apparently his main love interest and also having a severe handicap physically put upon him in such a short period of time. And he's still trying to apparently graduate with a major in basketball or soccer rather.
This is Britain. It's football,
It's
Matt.
football to them, soccer to us. But he's trying to get major in soccer, and he's not doing so well after having a alien fake leg put onto him. So while all this is going on, the stress is still building up on him, and he swears he's seeing things, but later on figures out after a cigarette break that he's actually not seeing things, but in fact seeing a real teleporting, what he can only call a dragon, running around and killing people. He tries to help figure it out and finally goes back to the rest of the group and starts to confide in them a little bit more and starts telling them about what he's been seeing, finally leading them down the path to point the finger at the gym teacher that has been giving him more and more pain over the last couple of months. At the same time, Miss Quill has also figured out that she's being watched and observed by the school, and the person doing it is obviously not a normal human being. She can't quite figure out what's up with him, though. The night that they confront the gym teacher, the coach, rather, Miss Quill also confronts the man who's been observing her, and after a few quick moments, he literally doesn't speak, but motions to the idea that he's there for her, that he's possibly attracted to her, which they have a makeout scene and very nearly dodge the dragon. She sacrifices the man in the end to the dragon, only to find out that he's actually an android. She manages to meet up with the rest of the kids who are confronting the coach, and the dragon comes out, and they finally put everything together, stating that the dragon's mate is actually the tattoo on the coach, and that he has pretty much set up this whole thing where he will let the dragon on his skin suck up the blood as long as the other one kills him. To which they manage to talk to the dragon, who actually can talk back, and convince him that it would be in his best interest to actually take the coach and just do what he will. They end on that, more or less, and the team is still kind of scattershot. The end.
Okay.
That ran a little bit long.
You did it in 2 minutes, 42 seconds. So you were over by 12 seconds.
This one's a little bit more complicated, I think, though, too, than the previous episode.
Yeah, and you also missed the ending of it with Quill looking at the android and seeing the fact that the stamp says it's by the governors, which is probably going to be a plot point for future episodes.
Possibly, yes. But again, I was speed pointing it for the major parts, but yeah, there was that little bit at the end as well.
Mm-hmm. So, again, we are going to keep the same order, because I don't feel like re-rolling, and do things that you liked. Overall, starting with Tim.
So I guess that's me.
I don't know another Tim here.
Oh, okay. Things I liked. I really liked the gore.
Huh.
Now you're talking me.
He wasn't shy.
Yeah.
About showing some meat.
Yeah, it did not shy away from showing the bloody meat, yes.
And, I've kind of gotten used to that, having slammed through 11 seasons worth of Supernatural in the last month. And they don't shy away from gore either, or blood.
It seems refreshing for a Doctor Who related thing.
Yeah, this is a little less family and a little more on the older scale. But not quite adult, but not quite children either. As they say, young adults and up. That it, Tim?
So that's it.
So, Bill then.
I'm sorry,
gonna say-
Erin is trying to speak, but she's muted on the channel, so
Oh,
we can't hear her.
Crap.
I
forgot
kept
to unmute. I was wondering why people. It sounded like people were pausing to listen to me, and then I hear Matt move on. I'm like, wait, I'm talking.
I'm trying to scream at you from in the living room, but apparently you can't hear through the wall, which is interesting since you can tend to hear the TV just fine.
No, I can hear you. That's the only reason why I knew I was still muted.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like what I was trying to say is that Torchwood. I would say that this episode was actually bloodier than most of the episodes I've seen in Torchwood.
Some of them.
Again,
With the
this
exception of Miracle Day and the serial killers out in the forest.
countryside.
yeah, I was about to say Countryside when I think was a bit gore here.
Mm-hmm.
There were some other slightly gory episodes in Torchwood.
It might help that this is primarily, well, actually, I don't know how UK's rating system is, but the fact that it's primarily being aired on, well, actually, I don't know when the TV re-airings are. I was going to say the fact that it's primarily online might help that, but we know that they're doing it on TV the week after, so
Yeah, I know.
that
I'm wondering
probably
if
wouldn't affect what's censored and what's not.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the
Well-
TV is going to be censored.
Yeah, I
Well,
was just thinking that too, because a lot of the gory scenes could easily be cut.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if we get the uncut version over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm perfectly fine with.
But yeah, it reminded me of certain scenes of Supernatural where you see some pretty horrific shit.
Yeah, they weren't pulling any punches on this one.
But Supernatural is designed to be a horror series, and this is more fantasy, sci-fi kind of thing. Sci-fantasy. Even so, yeah, it was decent. Bill, what did you like about Dragon Tattoo overall?
I like that. I feel like it dealt with loss in a believable way. The whole thing about Ram not being ready to talk about it until he's able to talk about it a little bit, and Tanya's experiences. I felt that was fairly believable and better than the way a lot of Doctor Who episodes handle it, where it's blurt everything out and then you're good. You never need to, you never have any issues. This was a little bit more organic and believable.
All right, Matt.
I particularly liked the Rom story arc. As Bill was mentioning, the whole arc of him having lost everything and having literally to start over from scratch, and that even lends into the main story where he's not entirely sure he's actually seeing things or if he's just hallucinating stuff because he's been under so much stress over the last couple of weeks.
Stress,
Stress
PTSD is a better description.
That as well.
I mean, Ram is kind of the butt monkey of this series thus far.
Yeah, actually.
I mean,
Thus far, he's deserved it.
yeah, thus far he's also the jerk ass of the series. But even so, I mean, look at everyone else and how they get off.
He's the Owen of class.
Everybody else has gotten off pretty much scot-free, save for April, who was sharing a heart with a being.
I think Ram is more likable than Owen, though. He's more, he's kind of a jerk at the very, very beginning of the first episode. And then he gets kind of his ass handed to him.
He gets his ass handed to him. He loses he's basically a jock bully at the beginning of the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then he loses his girlfriend and loses his leg, which causes his coordination to go away with the prosthetic, so that he can't do his favorite sport anymore, or at least it looks like he can't. And he's basically having all these issues, and everyone else is basically just going around as if everything's normal.
As
I
much
mean,
as they can.
even April, who's sharing a heart with a killer from another world, is still going around her day-to-day activities just like everything's usual.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one that has to deal with the fallout and the shit. So that's why I'm considering him the butt monkey right now. Also, possible votes for if he ever loses the jerk ass for being the Wooby of the series.
I am kind of wondering if he's going to get a gore
Mhm.
splatter every episode.
It's so far he's 2 for 2.
Yeah.
We need to do a montage because isn't he splattered with gore more than once?
Yeah, like we just
No,
said, he's 2 for 2.
As well.
He's 2
Yeah.
for 2. He's splattered with gore when his girlfriend buys it in episode
Mhm.
1, and
And
he's
then the
splattered
lunch
with
lady, right?
a cleaning
Cleaning
lady.
lady.
Cleanly.
Yeah, cleaning lady bites it in episode 2. So really, we got to keep looking out for future episodes for him getting
Well,
splattered with gore, and then at the end,
we know he's part of the main plot next episode, so we'll see if someone is gruesomely killed and splatters blood all over him.
Does does this mean that he's the Ashley Williams of this series?
Could I don't
I don't
know
know.
if he's that badass.
Yeah, depends on if he grows a badass spine.
Well,
Because at the moment he's not really.
Ash didn't start off badass either, if you recall.
I know, but he can't be the Ash if he doesn't grow one eventually.
If he grows one by the end of the series, he's officially the Ashley Williams.
Depends on the level of badass too.
Mm-hmm. If he can do a one-liner and it sounds authentic, then we're good.
So, alien menace threatening the school. Just another Tuesday, right? At that point, you've gotten that level of jaded that you can pull off the Ash. But yeah.
Yeah.
Just strolls in with a soccer ball. Groovy.
No, at that point, it's going too far.
Whatever the
actually
British
pretty
equivalent
cool.
of groovy is, and the fact that it's modern and not,
Oh,
70s
dude, how's
or 80s.
Groovy not modern?
No, groovy is not modern.
I
That's
don't
the
think
whole
I've heard
part
anyone
of it.
except
It's
for
retro.
Evil Dead fans say groovy in the past 10 years.
Well, I've heard Shaggy say it. Gee,
Yeah,
that looks
they're-
pretty
they're-
groovy, Scooby.
And there's some neo hippies that say
Yeah,
it, but that's really about it.
The Scooby Gang is perpetually stuck in the
In 1969.
yeah.
Dude,
I was about to say 60s, 70s. So yeah, it's on the
I
edge.
rode on my bike past a old man up by a restaurant. He's out having a smoke. I'm passing by him, and I believe Dio was playing, and the only thing I hear is "far out."
Yeah, you
No,
know
I
what that
haven't heard the
you know
word
what that
gnarly in a
comes with,
long
Matt,
time.
don't you? Smoking the local herb.
Like I said, he had a cigarette, and it was obviously by the smell of it a cigarette.
I was gonna say, what does basil have anything to do with it? Or oregano?
Anyway, moving on.
Smoking the oregano today.
Who are we
Well,
on
you know,
next?
usually 3/4 of that stuff is usually oregano these days anyway. All right. So I believe we were on
I just finished-
things we liked. Aaron.
Yep.
Yeah. I actually liked the coach. He was a little bit over the top, and he would have maybe made a better red herring.
Yeah.
But he actually brought quite a lot of tension to that role. The actor did, and I thought his acting was pretty good. He was a dick, and he was intimidating as hell too.
Yeah, I
And
have to.
he knew how to bully within the rules without actually, risking his job or anything.
I disagree with you, but I will talk about that in the next round.
Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I don't think he should have been maybe a prime suspect. I think he should have been made like a red herring who got killed later on in the episode when we find out that he's not really responsible for it. But that would have, that would have meant an entire episode rewrite or something. So
Actually, I know how you could have rewritten that, but I'll digress for later.
yeah.
All right. So, what I really liked about the episode overall, I'm gonna pass actually.
Oh.
Scenes. All right. So, not scenes. Excuse me. What didn't you like about the episode overall? Starting with Tim.
I found it kind of hard to swallow the fact that Rom apparently has been keeping his prosthetic leg hidden from everyone. Especially considering he was still trying to play soccer, football.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, still, knee socks. They made sure that thing started well below the knee line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah, he was dragging his foot pretty obviously too.
Well, what surprises me is that they didn't go on and actually like make the excuse. Yeah, I was when they killed her, I was attacked in the leg and got wounded. So I'll need some time off to recover from the heel while he's secretly practicing to get control of his leg. No, he didn't think that far. He just took a week off to mope and then
he's even
immediately
more off than he could have been. Yeah.
So that's my take on it, Tim. Did you have anything further?
No, it's just a bit too much for my belief.
Well, the whole concept of the prosthetic, that the doctor was that stupid to do that in the first place. I mean, seriously, isn't there a place in time and space he could have whisked them to where they could have regrown his leg?
I know, there should have been some place.
At least he didn't make someone immortal or
go
back in time to stop Rebecca from dying or some bullshit.
I mean, we can grow ears on mice now. Is it impossible to think that he could have quickly taken him 100 years in the future and go, this man has lost his leg. Can you put on a new one, please?
Here's a hair sample. Thank you.
At least then it wouldn't have been as obvious. So I could believe he was faking with it, but still having to relearn how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Having to break it back in.
Mm-hmm. All right, Bill. So things overall you didn't like.
I kind of hinted at this before, and I get that he has reasons, but everything to do with Ram's personality annoys the fuck out of me. Every time he comes on screen, I just am waiting for the next scene. He just annoys me.
Which is that? The Rom?
Yeah. You keep saying Ram.
Because I think the only time I heard it pronounced in the episode was Ram, but they might have been pronouncing it both ways.
They could have, yeah.
Just overall.
I have to pay attention on the third watching to see if I only remember the way Miss Quill pronounced it. But other people might have pronounced it the other way afterward. I'll have to check.
I just went by how it's spelled.
Well, he's the popular kid / jock,
which already makes him lose 6 points in my book anyway. And he doesn't. And then he immediately starts knocking books out of people's.
Which is a popular kid jock move. He's also a bully.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make me auto-hate the character. I can think of several characters, usually not protagonists, but characters in shows that I've watched that fill that role.
Bulk and Skull were funny, and Ram is not funny.
You immediately go to Bulk and Skull. He's basically male Cordy. And Bill says nothing.
Bill, I thought you were going to follow it up with more. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, she was annoying too. She just kind of, I don't know, was kind of put in her place by the situation.
He's possessed Green Ranger. Wait until he's no longer possessed anymore.
Okay,
Oh, wait,
Matt.
you're saying Cordy as in Buffy? I was thinking what's her name from last season of Doctor Who?
No, I'm talking Cordelia Chase from
Yan?
Buffy, where she's the popular girl teenager. He's the popular boy jock type.
True, and Cordy was the antagonist in the first season.
Yes, he was. Yes, she was, and then she grew out of it.
Right.
Give him a chance to grow out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my point of view on it too. Is that I've gotten old enough to know that these are pretty much just kind of more like phases than anything. Some people get stuck in them, but
Not
you know,
always.
the idea of most people grow out of them. You find out that the jock jerk actually has a heart of gold or whatever. He probably goes and reads at St. Mary's somewhere or something.
Either that, or the jock gets turned into the man child. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much the way those branch. Anyway, Matt, what don't you like overall?
What don't I like overall? I really handed it to the first episode to do CGI smartly. The dragon can be touch and go in places. Some places he
Yeah.
worked really well, and other places he just came off as really clown's shoes.
I had some difficulty finding good things for the title card because when the dragon was like, when you only see part of the dragon, it was very on point animation. But when when the full dragon and the coach are both on screen together, that seems to be the worst animated shots.
Yeah. Plus the dragon they're using there looks like what it would look like if a dragon had sex with a lamprey.
Fair.
Hot dragon on lamprey action. Yeah.
Hope you enjoy the vision, kiddies.
Let that stick to the inside of your eyelids. All right, Aaron, what didn't you like?
I actually didn't like the flashbacks and the blood splatter shown over and over and over again on Rom. It came off as a bit comical for me. I think that there are better ways for handling his PTSD. For example, we saw him wipe his face before in the first episode when his girlfriend died. So if he was washing his hands or after he gets splattered by the lunch lady, then it would make sense to, kind of focus on the blood on his hands rather than the blood that's getting sprayed on his face. For me, it became almost cartoonish how that was replayed over and over and over again.
Again, I have to disagree with you there because that was supposed to be kind of a visual flashback that he was experiencing.
Pretty much,
yeah. But it's the thing is that it's seen from a third person. It's like when he's like wiping his hands, you can at least go to a first person shot of him looking down and his hands covered in blood. Or if he's washing his hands and there's just water on there, we can imagine him seeing blood on his hands even though there's nothing there. It makes for a great setup for more hallucinations, more, like I said, more trauma and such. But when we see it from a third person shot over and over again, it just looks silly.
I didn't think so.
I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was hilarious. That's why I suggested that Matt use that clip from South Park, because that clip from South Park used to horrify me. With Richard Adler's girlfriend or fiance getting splattered in the face with blood, I thought it was terrifying. And then I see this, and it just makes me laugh now.
I think it's not the thing. I think it's the fact that you've become jaded to gore splatter.
Possibly.
No, I think it is the way that it was filmed. It wasn't done in a horrific enough sense. Maybe the first episode it wasn't quite as silly, but like showing it over and over again, especially like I said from the third person point of view.
Well, here's the other thing,
silly.
Aaron. Here's the other thing. Your way of doing it might have actually crossed over into like R rating. You can't do this when it's meant for still a slightly younger audience yet.
Well, yeah, except that we're seeing bodies that have been skinned alive.
Yeah, but it's still very touchy with ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the slightest thing can make the difference between this is appropriate for a teenage audience, and this is only appropriate for post-Watershed.
I don't know. I thought that if they had handled it in a more serious, I thought it would have been handled in a more serious way if they had, and more personal way. The scenes would have turned out a little bit better.
I was still fine with them. I didn't see them as overly bad. And I would also argue that we're trying to see what he's going through from a third person's perspective as it is. So no matter what you would do,
Well,
it's
and
kind of
that's
us seeing it from far away as well. It's just
well, and this would be
we
a
are
way of
reliving the scenes the way he has seen it, but from our perspective as well.
well, yeah, and that's the problem. I think we need to see it from his perspective. Like, for example, when he goes to wipe his face, the blood off of his face, he looks down at his hands, and that's where we cut to a first-person shot. And that's when you look down, and the audience then identifies a little bit more closely with the character.
Okay, we've hit the level of
we've hit circling this, yeah.
All right. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Aaron, and I'm going to have to disagree with you on what you liked, because what I didn't like is the coach. And my argument is the fact that his character was far too one-dimensional.
It would have been interesting if we saw more of his dimensions before the tattoo incident.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been nicer.
Character devolved.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, what we get is this one-dimensional coach who, if his personality has always been this way, is not somebody who would have kept his position.
I don't know if I don't think he was this harsh in the first episode. I think he becomes more desperate and more of a bully and more angry in the second episode, and that's when we first I kind of noticed a slight change in him.
I mean, I think that's just because he needs to be more fleshed out this time, whereas in the first he was just a cameo.
Yeah, first he just had a cameo in his cameo. He sent that character for like 20 laps, was it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's still rather harsh.
Though.
Right.
Still rather harsh.
I think it wound up being 25 because he talked back.
Yeah.
It started off as like 10.
But and it just and that he actually didn't bother me in that.
Yeah.
He was tough, but it was still fair tough. And here, he's absolutely merciless, heartless, and just so one-dimensional that he is completely unsympathetic at all. Even when they get to him at the end, I'm just like, I don't care, kill him.
Yeah, I didn't feel sympathy for his death, but I did kind of sense that he was a bit fearful of what was going on with the tattoo. The fact that he tried to constantly reassert his control over the dragon tattoo or over the trapped female, I think that kind of showed a bit of weakness for him. But still, yeah, I don't have any sympathy for how he died.
All right, so scenes that you like. Tim, you're up.
I really liked the end where Ram and his father he's practicing with his leg, trying to knock the water bottle over.
And you watch as he slowly gets closer and gets better.
Yeah. And then he and his dad share a moment. That was very heartwarming.
All right. Bill?
I don't know what it is with me and the ends of the episodes, but I like the Quill studying the android's remains and coming up with information about it.
Makes me wonder. That made me wonder if we're going to see a guest appearance by Ian Chesterton, because he's supposed to be on the board of governors.
Yeah.
And if anyone would have if anybody would have sent a robot after Quill, who he may suspect as being an alien, it would be Ian. But we'll see.
Doesn't have the doctor on text by now just to check on that sort of shit?
No, I don't think they've talked to the doctor since. But he was the science teacher, and
True.
he learned enough shit abroad that he would, be able to go, hey, yeah, let me knock up a robot here. Remember those mechanoids? Yeah, okay, I can do it. Here you go. Here's a new inspector. Go check to see if she's an alien.
Come to think of it, he had his own time machine by the time he came back to Shoreditch.
No shit.
With actually a time machine that had previously, and possibly even at the time they came, had an android doctor. So he certainly had the
Ooh.
ability to make androids with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're already speculating. Very nice. Okay, so Matt, scene that you liked.
Scene that I liked. Second one. Um, trying to focus on just one scene in particular. I will go with the scene in the shower when Rom first bumps into the body and then quickly hides in the stalls and freaks out for a few minutes.
Okay.
That was some pretty tense stuff, especially for a kid his age.
All right, Aaron.
I got a couple of quotes that I really like, but the one that I thought was funny was, "Have you seen what this species puts on the web? So much genitalia."
Okay.
I thought that was pretty good.
I
Yeah.
can't find a thing about him.
And here I thought you'd go for the scene with the coach's bum, but yeah.
It was either that or he's from Hofstede. Of course he's evil.
So my favorite would have to be a couple of paired scenes where they start referring to their own rift as the bunghole of space.
Bunghole.
Or the
Yes.
bunghole of time.
That's
Bunghole
The
time.
bunghole of time.
The bunghole of time.
Interesting side note. Of course, if this was said in America, it would be the butthole of time. Interesting note is the fact that the upcoming South Park game, The Fractured Butthole, was originally called the Butthole of Time before the game developer said we can't sell a game with the word butthole in it.
Oh, Ubisoft. Don't play nice.
I just the parallels to that made me raise an eyebrow on Twitch.
See, now,
Okay.
if it was named by someone who wasn't the youngest member of the class, it might have been the arsehole of time.
That also had occurred to me. The arsehole of time.
Arsehole, the bum of time.
Times pooper. Oh, come on. You could think of a dozen
I
ways.
can just imagine the doctor coming back at the end of the season. He's like, bunghole of time? That's what you're calling it? It's goes off how it's a miraculous phenomenon, and you're calling it a bunghole?
I don't know. Bunghole of time. Times rectum. Appropriate. And then moving on would also work too. All right.
Actually,
So
yeah, I
the
could
shitter of
see that.
time.
I could see that with this doctor.
with this doctor, I can see him doing that. Yeah, I could. The other way around would have been more of a Tenant or a
Sure.
Smith. But this one would have gone appropriate and moved on. Okay, so scenes you didn't like, and we're starting with Tim.
Huh. Things I didn't like. Racking my brain trying to think of something I didn't like. It's not coming to me. Pass.
All right. Bill.
Say the resolution with the dragons feels rushed and incomplete. There's really no reason from that scene to believe that he's not just going to keep coming back and killing people for their blood.
Yeah.
Assuming that he in some way keeps his mate alive after killing the coach, she's still going to need to feed.
I don't know though. I like parts of that scene with him suggesting, "Haven't you heard of leather?"
Yeah.
And there's just the nervous look on the coach.
Yes. Okay. Matt. Scene you didn't like.
Scene I didn't like.
I just remembered a sci-fi thing we didn't mention, but I can save that for if we have time.
Yeah, Bill kind of took mine. Um, I, um, I have to say that Miss Quill suddenly just getting attached to the android like that kind of came out of nowhere. But then again, it's not the first time
So
with Doctor
Matt, you
Who.
took
Yeah.
mine. You took mine. Yeah, because that was all kinds of awkward and forced for me.
The came kind of
Yeah.
that really did come out of nowhere. Even as she was doing it, she admitted she fancied the guy running the school more anyway.
Yeah.
It really just seemed absolutely out of the blue, and here she is stalking this guy the entire episode, thinking he's some kind of infiltrator. What do you want? You? Okay, I'm gonna start Frenching you now. No, I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's how it. Maybe that's
that's-
how it works in Quill society.
I don't know. It seemed more of a Torchwood solution than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aaron, you've got a scene you don't like that hasn't already been mentioned? Because Matt took mine. I'm out of them.
I know it's kind of more of a nitpick. It's not a terrible scene, but the idea of the dragon being burned into the tattoo in the first place, or being burned into the dude's skin in the first place, is a little. It's more fantasy than science fiction. So
It is very
I
silly.
it's a bit silly. If there was some other way that she could be trapped, I don't know how. Maybe she would be maybe she phases in and out of existence, but like the easiest way to feature that was as a tattoo. I don't know, it could have been, or maybe he controls her with his mind or something like that. She's like a ghost dragon, and the mate is getting frustrated trying to figure out a way to free her, and the only way to do it is to pop open people's skulls and try to suck out their brains in order to free her or something like that. So
And actually, the idea I had originally before I found out what the real ending was I think a better one, wherein the tattoo actually just kind of peels itself off and attacks people while he's trying to keep it under control.
That's
That
what I
was-
kind of
that-
assumed
they
was
should've-
was
that
gonna
was
be the case.
that was what it looked like to be, and that was what the red herring was.
Right.
And I would have
Turned
preferred
out
that,
not
to
to be
be
the
honest.
tattoo, but the tattoos. Yeah, it just
yeah, in that case, he should have been like, I don't know. It would have been better if they were going with this with the living tattoo. I would have preferred to have seen like an illustrated man type deal where he can conjure like nasty things out. Maybe he's like super tattooed. He's got tattoos all over his body, but we can't see it because of his tracksuit. So, like, every tattoo has a purpose. Like, he can pull a knife out of his arm. That's one tattoo. Or, he's maybe some super assassin that we don't know about.
The tattooed man from Green Lantern.
Yeah. Oh, wait. There's a tattooed man in Green Lantern?
And,
Yes.
and it was a comic. I don't think he's appeared in any of the like shows or movies, but he was a comic.
yeah. I used to have
I
his
was
Marvel card.
I was thinking of
or his
something
DC
wicked.
card.
I was thinking along the lines of Something Wicked This Way Comes, or
Yeah.
Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man.
I agree that the origin of this thing is off. I would have liked it if it actually had been a tattoo that came to life. If he'd gotten it from an alien that used some kind of alien ink that one
Right.
reacted with the human
Or-
body.
Right, or ink that had been kind of fucked up by the time vortex and was to something on the other side that brought something out through a wormhole of some sort.
That it
Yeah.
had,
I know
or,
I'm aware that I've used the word something like 4 times in that
or
sentence.
some kind of alien or energy-based entity that just somehow managed to animate the dragon tattoo into reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the solution they had is not very well written and well placed, which does
Yeah.
make me worry because the writer for this episode writes the rest of the series. So
Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
Oh.
yeah, Patrick Ness writes everything for this series, all
Oh,
8
boy.
episodes.
Here we go.
Hopefully this was just a fluke. Maybe this was just kind of a filler episode or something. Meant to be bookended or meant to hide the whole subplot of the governors and get that pushed in to the series.
Brace yourselves, the rest of the season is coming.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Patrick Ness is in over his head.
I'm wondering if the robot dude is one of those machines that's piloted by many people on the inside of the skull.
No,
If you
that was
notice,
a
if you
different
notice
alien
that-
race.
Well, yeah, but if you notice, the head is hollow. I mean, it's going to be kind of hollow at least, but there didn't seem. Was there like an electronic brain? Did anyone see if there was a brain in there or something? Or?
Mostly just saw the robotic skull. We didn't really see what was inside.
Maybe it's that
Yeah.
guy from Men in Black trying to tell us that the galaxy is on Orion's belt.
No, I don't think so. Well, we know what Bill did on Saturday. He watched the 3
No,
rounds.
I didn't because I don't sit down and watch TV. I've just watched that movie so many times.
You could reference it on top of your head, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to pass since Matt took mine. Although honorable mention goes to the scene where the coach is taking the shower and you get a full ass shot. Because
Yeah,
I felt
that was actually kind of uncomfortable for me.
that was kind of unnecessary for me.
Yeah.
So then we're going to go on to our final thoughts for this episode, starting with Tim.
Final thoughts was a good atmospheric, gory episode. I liked Rom's character development. The coach was kind of one-dimensional, as everyone said, and the solution of like what the dragon is pointing. So, but this was like just an average episode, I think.
Okay. Bill?
I agree about it being pretty average. The visuals are average. The writing is average. Neither one is horrendous. Neither one is great. Yeah, just kind of average all around. That's about it.
All right, Matt?
I think the character development was particularly decent, in my opinion, on this episode, but the monster of the week needs some repunching up.
That's it?
Pretty much.
Aaron?
I was a little bit disappointed in both the resolution and the revelation of the origin of the monster in this. I thought it was, after a pretty decent setup and some pretty intense moments, it was still, it was kind of that big of a letdown. We finally get the team together. They're going to go march off to solve a problem, and then, yeah, it's not that great.
All right. So this, is pretty much a follow-up to the other episode. It's its own story, but it's really just kind of picking up where the last episode went off as far as character development. And in that, it does a really good job. It does a great job of setting up a situation, but the resolution draws weak. The origin of it draws weak. It all could have been written better if somebody had basically said, go back and write it again. Something we frequently says is wrong with the Moffat era, of who I'm not sure who's supposed to be the showrunner in this.
It's as far as Patrick Ness is the writer is frequently mentioned as executive producer. I don't know if Moffat is intended to be his equal among this, but if so, I have a feeling it's kind of like Torchwood, where RTD took the back burner and let Chibnall do his thing. I have a feeling that if Moffat's in charge, is what he's doing is that he's just kind of leaving Ness to do his own thing here.
And I'm really starting to think that Ness could do with a script editor.
Yes.
Someone to look through his stuff and basically go, you really need to explain this better.
I don't know if anybody's giving him any feedback on his scripts, but they definitely do feel like drafts. At least, at the very least, the first one did. If the second one is, you could kind of argue, is as good as a lot of things on TV. Not the best, but plenty. First definitely felt like a draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really starting to think that we're going to see some stuff that really should have been put through and written again. All right, so we're now at that time where we are going to give ratings. So we are going to go back and do For Tonight We Might Die, the first episode. And again, we are going to be giving our ratings in the order from which we talked. So, Tim, your opinion for Tonight We Might Die, your rating.
I It was a good episode. I'm going to give it a 4.
4 flat. Bill.
So I almost gave this a 2 because of the various writing issues, but I'm going to say, since I was leaning toward like a 2.2, I'm going to say Peter Capaldi bumps it up to what on our scale would be a 2.5.
Low. Okay. Matt.
I was going to give it a 3.25, but some of the later acts did save it, so it officially bumps it from being a 3 to a 3.5 for me.
All right. Aaron?
I'm gonna go with a 3.
I'm going to go with Matt and give it a 3.5 solely because of the Capaldi's scenes and some of the character dialogue at the end. It was pretty mediocre to low up till then, and then it would have ended on a 4, so I'm going to kind of average it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus Capaldi. All right. So that averages that out to a 3.3. Not the most auspicious starting for class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we go to the coach with the dragon tattoo. Tim, you're up first.
This was kind of a step down from the first episode, so I'm gonna give it a 3.
3 flat. Bill,
I would also say a 3 flat on this one.
you liked this one better than you liked For Tonight We Might Die.
I think it had less issues. Its best points weren't quite as high as the other's best points, but I think it had less down points.
So I'm going to officially declare Bill to be our Romanian judge.
I just felt the
Why?
first one it seemed like every scene we looked at there was major writing issues, whereas the second episode I don't think had quite that problem.
All right, Matt, your opinion.
I'm actually going to be like Bill, and I think I like the second one better, and therefore I'm going to give the second one a 4.
All right, Aaron?
I'm going to give the second one a 2.5.
Oof.
Yeah.
And I'm with Aaron. Actually, no, I'm going to give this one a 3 flat. 3 flat because I felt it was pretty mediocre. Which, by the way, averages us out to a 3.1 for this. So,
Ow.
out of 2 episodes, we have a 3.3 and a 3.1. Made sure these copied over. Yes, they did.
Okay, I'm going to say it. 3, 2, 1.
Mediocre.
The general census seems to be that class is starting off really mediocre, which may also scream of why they aren't airing it in U.S. or anywhere else right away.
Yeah.
They wanted to see how it came through, and it's coming through as kind of
The first
meh.
act is coming out is kind of
Mhm.
bland in places, so hopefully they punched it up later into the season, crossing the fingers.
Because I can already tell this is basement dwelling for us.
Yeah, if it gets any worse than this, it's gonna be pretty bad. And wow, 2 trains in 2
Yeah,
hours.
we've been getting a lot of trains. A lot of trains.
Maybe
Yeah,
they're-
remember that live stream that we had 2 on as well?
Yeah, wonder if they're
Mhm.
maybe using the train system to help speed up things after the hurricane.
No, I think it's coal shipments to the heat plant for the university.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
3-3. And sorry, I entered that one wrong. Just a moment. I made a mistake.
Dang it all.
Okay, there we go. So now column C, column D. We'll put these out of 175 things that we have reviewed at this point. We'll put class Tonight We Might Die is 123,
Oof.
and The Coach with the Dragon Tattoo is 134.
Yeah, these are basement dwellers. Oof.
They Tonight Might Die is on par with Vengeance of the Stones, Planet of the Daleks, In the Forest of the Night, Evil of the Daleks, Modern Undead, Stones of Blood, Coach of the Dragon Tattoo is on par with Earthshock, Cold War, Rings of a Cotton, and I may give a retro bump to Rings of a Cotton because it's grown on me in the respective years, so that may
I was
actually
gonna
go up.
say, wasn't that one that needed a rebumping again?
Asylum of the Daleks, which, if you recall, I absolutely despised,
I found it very bland and meh.
and Trial of the Time Lord: The Mysterious Planet. Oh my God! It's starting in Trial of a Time Lord levels.
Ooh.
Oof.
And that's the high end of Tile of Time Lords, isn't it?
Yes, it has to be. Yep, it is.
Yeah. That does not bode well unless they start really up in the ante in the next couple episodes.
Between them stands Robot, Power of the Daleks, Pandorica Opens, Big Bang, Time Lash, Daleks Master Plan. So, wow, that's really in the low levels of our...
So far down, it's
That's what we can do
dinosaur
for our
bones.
200th. We can do something really dreadfully awful.
Oh.
Dimensions in time?
Just to bump up the bottoms.
Dimensions in time?
No,
He who
we've
shall not
already
be
reviewed
named.
that one, and it's
We
not long
we
enough
did,
to...
but I think the recording of that was lost.
I'm not touching that one again, ever. It is not official. It does not have it is not given an official episode number by the BBC.
It's more official than Curse of the Fatal Death.
Yes, but
Gunslingers.
Yeah, I was gonna say gunslingers.
Gunslingers itself, the story is not bad. It's just that freaking segue song.
Oh, and the historical inaccuracies literally pilfering the entire movie, but
Yeah, but it's the British trying to do an American story in an era where England didn't teach history outside of Europe.
They were intentionally trying to do a Western. They were not at all going for accuracy. That was one where they had pretty much given up the historical accuracy at that point and were just straight up going for a Western.
Yeah, Star Trek didn't fare much better when they did their OK Corral one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't they do the same event?
Yeah, more or less. But mind you, that was an alien recreation stated from the beginning. So
True.
And it didn't have the fucking segue song.
True.
Anywho, I think it's time for a closer.
So one thing I forgot to mention when we had our brief bit of sci-fi fantasy, Linda Carter as the president, mentioning her other jet on Supergirl.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, Supergirl overall has me squeeing right now.
I hear nothing but good things this season. I hope it continues.
No, the next episode. I want the next episode already because of who they're bringing in.
It introduced the character that I mainly know from Young Justice, but
I remember.
Pretty sure I liked her character on Young Justice.
Oh, which one are you referring to?
McGann.
Yes, they're bringing in Miss Martian, and the villain next week is Roulette.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't I see a white Martian in that bar? Or is it just another white alien?
I think it was another white alien. I think there's only a couple of white Martians left, and depending on how they go with it,
one of them. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I was
trying
to spoiler alert before somebody said that in case they go with that plot.
Bill.
Well, we don't know what Supergirl is going to do with it. That's the question.
I was
You're
going
walking
to.
the line, Bill. You're walking the line. Come join
Yes.
me on the line.
If somebody complains that we spoiled that, I will have
don't
to
have
kick
the
you in the dick
scripts.
on their behalf.
All these threats about dicks.
And on that bombshell, if you enjoy listening to Randy threaten me and other things, please like the video. You can try out that Twitch hosting stuff if you really want to help us out. Or otherwise, just subscribe on twitch.tv and on youtube.com. You can also follow us for news and updates at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast and YouTube and twitter.com/unearthlypod. And if you want to support us, you can go on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast or gofundme.com/MIBSpain.
All right. So next week we are continuing with class, our reviewing of class and Patrick Ness, with their what might be their Halloween episode. We're not sure. Possibly, maybe not. In Night Visiting, which is of course by Patrick Ness and starring the class crew et al.
So we shall see you all next week.
And hopefully we'll have a new reviewer with us.
Yes, hopefully.
Spoilers.
Special guest.
We shall see how he survives.
See how he survives the 2-hour gruel. And if the BBC doesn't pull another doubleheader on us, and it looks like they're not going to, we should be back to our normal format.
Mm-hmm. Sort of.
So
Yeah.
we still are going to try to keep the news down, but we're going to have a little more talky.
Yep. All right. Good night.
Nighty night.
Good night.